Welcome everyone, and a big thank you to all that have joined us for the 6th annual ConnectFX in 2020. And welcome to the first ever virtual ConnectFX. We tried to hold out for an in-person ConnectFX as long as we could. It seemed like only OTC held out longer than we managed. In the end, it was the right decision, and I'm happy that so many of you are still able to hear this message. In spite of not being able to gather in person, we've got some great content to share, and we can all look forward to meeting in person again at ConnectFX 2021. Today, we're going to cover a number of things, including market impact, what we've delivered in the product, and what's to come with the FieldFX roadmap. But before getting into that, it's important to cover where LiquidFrameworks is as a business in light of the very unique market conditions. Things have obviously been very challenging with rig count levels, production cuts, and pricing pressure. Thankfully, however, LiquidFrameworks has managed well during the uniqueness of 2020, in large part due to three things. First and foremost, we were prepared both operationally and financially. Since starting the business in 2005 and incubating it since 2001, we've seen three major down cycles. This makes the fourth. And while this cycle is certainly more severe than any of the previous, the preparations we've made are working. 12 years ago in 2008, Hurricane Ike made landfall in Houston. It brought with it tremendous rain, flooding, and destruction. It damaged some of the HVAC and other systems in our building and actually shut down our office space for about 3 weeks. At the time, we'd been running Salesforce for almost 4 years, and it was of course unaffected. But we had other systems that weren't in the cloud, and we were reasonably impacted by the short-term work-from-home mode that we found ourselves in. The experience that we got during that time made it obvious that we needed to be better prepared to work without accommodations of our building, and even more importantly, without using on-prem systems when the next storm hit Houston. So we spent the next year moving on-prem software and servers into Salesforce and other cloud-based systems. We ended up with about 95% of our systems in the cloud, and 100% of our people were equipped with laptops ready to work remotely. Since that time, there's been not a single storm that has shut down our office again. Never would I have thought, however, that those preparations would pay off like they did starting in March of 2020. From a financial perspective, the business is rock solid. Our financial partner, Illuminate Capital, has been absolutely fantastic during this time. They've been extremely supportive and remain 100% committed to the long-term growth of the product suite, FieldFX, and the business in general. I really couldn't ask for a better partner to work with during times like these. In general, the business remains very strong financially, and operationally, we're full steam ahead, even when operating remotely. But all the operational preparedness in the world doesn't help without great people to execute against the plan. And the LiquidFrameworks team members have undoubtedly stepped up to the plate. Our people's ability to execute during this time and their willingness to do more is another reason for our continued success in spite of the market. Our people have managed to operate at normal levels and in some cases even escalated productivity levels since this remote work started. Everyone's really been fantastic. Equally as important, our customers are certainly the critical component for us during this time. We're working to make sure things continue to run smoothly, and your ongoing long-term commitment is the most important part of our success. I've spoken with many of you personally, and I know everyone has made sacrifices and adjustments. While we're managing through all this, we also recognize that some of our customers have had to make budget adjustments that have impacted people at our customer sites who have worked directly with their FieldFX rollout and have built up valuable experience and skills on the administration side of FieldFX. We want to act as a resource in your search and help in connecting you to others in our network that may have openings. I know there are significant challenges that are faced by many. We've made adjustments to our budgets and plans as well, but we remain fully committed to serving our customers through ongoing investment in our product roadmap to ensure it's the most feature-rich product in the enterprise market, delivering exactly what our customers want and need. Interestingly, during times like this, we find companies have a heightened interest in finding ways to do more with less in these types of cycles. Companies are looking for ways to recapture unbilled revenue, get control over pricing, and all of the other financial benefits associated with the FieldFX quote-to-cash process. LiquidFrameworks is certainly well positioned to deliver on that interest and take advantage of opportunities as the energy markets recover in the coming quarters. I think most of us would agree that the market has reached its bottom and is now in a mode of waiting on demand recovery. Oil consumption will obviously be off for 2020 compared to the normal levels of 100 million barrels per day. I'm not going to try to predict any numbers because I'd be off for sure. Even the experts have been proven wrong about everything from demand to storage tank tops to WTI pricing, which came back into the 40s much quicker than most of us expected. It's likely a safe bet that in 2021, the gap between actual consumption and historical normal consumption levels will significantly narrow. More interestingly, however, keep in mind that the gap between actual consumption and production will likely be wider than historical norms. In my opinion, that could set the industry up for decidedly increased activity. Depending upon how quickly service providers and operators can react, that could significantly increase and escalate prices. You don't have to look further than what happened to the price when the gap between consumption and production was in the double-digit percentage range to see where it drove pricing and rig count quickly followed. Now imagine the same thing, only the curves are inverted and things start to ramp up. And they will indeed ramp up as we close in on a vaccine, and we will close in on a vaccine. Once that's within range, it's not unreasonable to expect demand to surge while supply lags. It's that gap between consumption and a lagging supply unable to keep pace due to lower investment attraction that could have a material impact on increased activity and pricing. It points to a scale problem for the industry. We should all be prepared to scale and take advantage of growth. Those that are successful at this stand to gain market share and revenue growth. But the business has to be ready to scale and has to be ready for this increase in demand. As we've seen from the success of our customers, FieldFX is a key component in giving companies the ability to scale and effectively respond to growth in the market. We've been hard at work turning out new releases for FieldFX throughout last year and continue to plan for more features, enhancements, and modules for the future. We've released a major new module, we've completed expansions of existing modules, and added numerous significant enhancements to every area of the product. At the last ConnectFX, we spoke about deploying new native mobile experiences for our users, and we've done exactly that. However, instead of releasing a new monolithic mobile app that replaces the existing FieldFX mobile app, we decided to focus on creating new native apps that are very specific to the problems they solve. We've made a complete shift to Lightning in back office, and that brings with it not only a new UI UX, but also a tremendous amount of new functionality and capability. We've made a large investment and a long-term commitment to providing an educational tool that our people, partners, and customers can use to learn every aspect of FieldFX and the process it supports. I'm very excited to talk more with you about that today, as I believe it will be a critical aspect of giving our customers the ability to ramp up new employees from the field to the back office. The work that our product team is doing to expand our capabilities and allow our customers to extract more value from FieldFX is more important than ever, given what's taking place right now. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from last year that have been released into the product and how companies can use them to scale their business. First, we're going to talk about shift scheduling. Shift scheduling is a major enhancement to our long-time schedule and dispatch module. For many years, FieldFX has included a module that allows our customers to schedule the right people and equipment to their jobs. With the shift scheduling add-on feature set, we give our scheduling users the ability to schedule people according to their on-off rotations. So what exactly does that mean? Some people might work 7 days on and 7 days off, for example, or even a more involved schedule of 5 days on, 2 off, and then 14 on and 7 off. All of these types of rotational schedules are handled. This feature set then works shifts into the mix by giving the scheduler the ability to run a day shift, a shoulder shift, and a night shift. But that's just an example, of course. You might have 4 shifts or only 2 shifts. When you're scheduling people to a job, FieldFX now considers the shift and the rotational schedule. And of course, people are already working on jobs, so it brings that into the mix as well when determining availability of personnel for that specific job and shift combination. But it goes a step further by layering in qualifications when determining the best people for the job. It considers compliance not only at the job level, but down to the shift level as well. Personnel qualification compliance must be maintained throughout the life of the job across all the shifts. That's what we're ensuring with this new feature set. Historically, our schedule and dispatch module answered the question, amongst many others, is a person qualified to go to the job? Now we're adding, is the job compliant to start? In other words, given the customer's requirements and the tools being used and the services being performed for this job, there's an inventory of qualifications required to start and complete the job. The job must be staffed with people such that those requirements are met throughout the life of the job. This is a powerful new feature set that will ensure compliance and safety. Along with these new features comes a new user interface as well. It's focused at the job level and gives the scheduler a completely different perspective on the job and its resources compared to the existing S&D UI. Let's take a look at it. I've asked Matt Danna, our Senior Director of Product Strategy, to join me today. Hey Matt, you want to take us through shift scheduling? Sure. Show us what it's all about?
It's good to see you, Travis, for the first time in 5-6 months.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's good to be here. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, so let's get started here. So, as Travis mentioned, we've made some significant enhancements to our schedule and dispatch module. We've built in the ability to manage shifts, rotations, and provide job compliance. And we came to that because we understand our customers. We've worked in this industry for years, and we understand that companies doing work in oil field, industrial, and environmental services have these specific details. So what I want to do is give you a brief demo of what shift scheduling is, and then I'll pass it back over to Travis. What we're looking at here is a new shift scheduling UI. This is something that hasn't traditionally existed. It's an enhancement to our S&D module that you may be familiar with. I want to walk you through the landscape a little bit here to kind of get you familiar with what we're looking at. So we're within the context of a single job. This is a fundamental shift in the way that we're enabling our customers through the product to do the scheduling. Traditionally, you see all the jobs and you can schedule many jobs at once. We are now focused in on one single job. So here on the left, you'll see that we have percentages for coverage. We have day shift and night shift, which is a new concept. We recognize that our customers do 2 shifts, 4 shifts, it varies really. But we want to be able to ensure that as a dispatcher, you're able to see how much coverage you have, how many bodies do you have that are filling the roles that are going to be providing the work. And so you'll see here that for the day shift, it's from 8 to 12, and we're 70% covered. So there are 70% of these boxes are filled in for the job dates for the day shift. On the night shift, we're only 36%. So this lets us know that we may need to schedule more people for one or more of those shifts. As we move down on the left, you'll see we get into the qualification requirements. And this is where we really get into the details of job compliance, making sure that the right people are staffed on the job that are capable of operating the tools and have the right certifications to actually get to the job site. Things like H2S, everyone needs that. Things like Safe Land or Safe Gulf. These are things that everyone needs. But you also have technical certifications. And so you'll see here that we have an engineer, we're doing a wireline job. We need someone who's capable of satisfying that and operating that logging tool. Over on the right, you'll see that we have our day shift and night shift, and then we have the people, that we have the roles within the shifts that we're going to fill. So in this case, I see that my night shift needs an engineer that has a logging tool operations qualification, specifically for the 10th. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add an engineer. We'll add a wireline engineer here. We're going to add this for the night shift. We'll hit add. So you'll see it gives us our placeholder. So now from this placeholder, I can figure out who the right person is that needs to fill that role. So what I'll do is I'm going to drag. I'm going to drag for this whole period. It's a 2-week period. First thing you'll see is that it brings up one person that has the right qualifications that's available based on his schedule with other jobs, based on PTO, and based on his qualifications. And so you'll see here that Mark gives me 43% coverage for this job, but I think I'm going to go ahead and double book because I need someone who's going to fill more of the coverage. So when I do that, you'll see it opens it up to show me more people. And I see that Howard Jones gives me 100% coverage and has all the qualifications that are required, H2S, SafeLand, and the logging tool operations. So I'll select Howard, and we're going to hit add. Before we do that, I just want to point out the inherent integration with some of the other modules. Our Timecard app, which we're going to look at, our Timecard app has the ability to allow the employee to track time off. We're factoring that in here with our shift scheduling module. So that's really a big benefit to the entire product suite, is that all the modules are inherently integrated. So I'll schedule Howard. You'll see that brings us within compliance. We're now 100% compliant, and we can go ahead and start pushing this out to the employees.
That's awesome, Matt. I really love this new UI UX. It's just fantastic. It looks beautiful. It puts a tremendous amount of new power in the hands of our schedulers, and it really addresses an entirely new use case that just brings a whole new set of features and capabilities to the S&D module. Thanks a bunch, Matt.
Thank you.
It really looks good. It's worth noting that all the great new technology that we're using in that shift scheduling UI that you just saw is being incorporated into the existing schedule and dispatch timelines panel, which will make for a really nice improvement to the UI on that side of S&D as well. Now let's talk about the next version of Timecards. This is a new native app that we released earlier this year. Of course, we've had a Timecard module for a long time, but it was one of the original modules delivered in the product. This new modern version of the Timecard app is available for Android phones and iPhones. It's available for download at both the Play Store and the App Store. We've taken the last 8 years of working with customers to solve their time tracking needs with our previous Timecard module, and we baked it into this new native app. It provides functionality to support time tracking use cases that we see most often in the energy industry, including hourly time tracking, clock-based time tracking, and PTO requests and approval. Another feature unique to the FieldFX Timecard module is the automation that can be enabled between the e-ticketing and Timecard modules for customers that choose to deploy both. That automation will automatically create a Timecard entry based on the labor entry found in the field ticket. Your field engineer is already entering the billable side of the labor item on the field ticket, so we end up sending it to the Timecard module as a time entry, keeping the respective field worker from having to enter that time for payroll. It's a nice time saver and keeps things consistent since there's no duplicative data entry. This new Timecard app represents a shift in the way we're delivering features and modules within the FieldFX product suite. Customers will find that this app takes much less time to roll out, and that many of the configuration options have been pre-selected based on the best practices we've seen over the years. Of course, customers can still leverage the configurability of the platform and extend upon what we've delivered to meet their unique needs. But if they play more within the fairway of the out-of-the-box app, they'll find implementation and adoption requires much less time. Speed to value is huge. It's always huge, of course, but right now especially. So let's take a look at the app. Matt, can you join us and walk us through a quick demo of it?
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Travis. So I'm going to be running this today on my iPhone 10 here. What I want to show you here is a redone app. We essentially took all the knowings that we've had over the last 15, 20 years and recognized that we needed to make some functionality changes and enhancements to our Timecard app. We've had a Timecard app for quite some time, but this is a drastically improved user experience. So the first thing we're looking at here, at the top, we have our pay period. That pay period is configurable. So we provide some out-of-the-box pay periods that you can adopt weekly, bi-weekly, and then if you need to, you can specify the dates for those. What date does your work week start on, right? When is, that type of detail. So there's a few different ways that time can make its way onto my timesheet. The number one way is, the first way Travis mentioned earlier, is that my supervisor or a field engineer may have entered time on my behalf, in which case they're doing that through the mobile e-ticketing app. And that app will automatically push the time into my time card and it'll show up on my timesheet. Another way is that I can enter the time manually, or I can copy entries from yesterday, which is extremely useful when you're talking about recurring work or doing the same thing from day to day. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to go in and we're going to enter time for Tuesday. So I'm going to hit the plus button. In this case, it shows input hours. It's to be noted that all the fields that are here on the layout are driven based on Salesforce page layout. So as a system administrator, if you need to go in and configure, maybe you like to track the start time and the end time versus just a total number of hours for that day, or you want some other custom fields, you can do that all through configuration in Salesforce. And we'll pull that down to the app and allow those data points to be captured by your technicians. In this case, I'm just going to enter total number of hours. We worked 8 hours today. And let's just say, rather than assigning that time to a job, I was working in the shop. So I'll hit shop time, and I'll say I was working on my truck. I'm going to hit save. And you'll see that that time is automatically populated for Tuesday, the shop time for 8 hours. Then, at the end of the pay period, I can submit this entire timesheet for approval by my manager. So in order to do that, what I would do is hit review and submit. It shows me the total number of hours that I have allocated for each day, as well as the total number of hours that I have allocated for my entire timesheet, the cumulative total. I'm going to say submit, and that automatically submits that timesheet for approval to my manager. Another couple of nice features that I want to talk about are submitting time off. This is a new feature. You'll see at the bottom on the navigation, I can click time off. This will show me any upcoming time off that I've requested and the status of that. You'll see that from the 20th to the 21st, I have 2 days that are pending. Travis is going to hopefully approve those hours. But I also have time that I've already taken in the past. You'll see I had 5 days in July and I had 8 days in May. Both have been approved. Just to touch back on shift scheduling, when we talked about time off and factoring the availability of that person, myself, the technician, from the scheduling process, it's all driven based on the time off entered that's been approved.
And Matt, what form factors does it run on? I see you running it on the phone there, but where can it run on?
Yeah, it runs on phones, it runs on tablets as well. It's available on the App Store and the Play Store. It can be downloaded and runs on any of those devices. With that, I'll hand it back over to you, Travis.
Great. Nice demo. Thanks, Matt. That new native app for Timecards looks really fantastic. Again, I'm excited to hear the feedback from customers as they adopt it. Well, let's move on to the back office side of things and see what's been taking place with our Lightning components. As all of you know, FieldFX is available in the Lightning experience, but we're always adding more features and components to this library. Salesforce continues to invest in the Lightning experience, and our customers continue to provide great feedback on improvements and ideas. So we're continually adding to the Lightning suite. The Lightning library now consists of a large number of components that can be used and configured in a variety of ways to satisfy a ton of business requirements. We've created a new item browser component that makes finding items very quick and very easy. We've designed it in a way that allows you to use this same component in the context of finding items to add to price books, quotes, and tickets. And it's very flexible from a configuration perspective, allowing your administrators to have it behave differently across the org, or even on the same page in the case of adding it multiple times. It's leveraging all the power of Lightning to give your admins the most flexibility. We've really taken that approach across the entire library of components. They're a great set of components that can be used as building blocks to accommodate many different scenarios. But I don't want you to think that you're required to do that building. We've injected a new set of Lightning apps that come with all of these Lightning components pre-configured according to the best practice for the respective app. For example, there are now pre-configured apps for everything from quoting to invoicing and everything in between. This makes it faster than ever before to get fully up and running with FieldFX. Let's take a look at some of the new Lightning components in the context of the new FX Quoting Lightning app. Matt, can you join me again and walk us through some of these new components on the quoting app?
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Absolutely. So I'm really excited about this new initiative to provide these out-of-the-box Lightning apps because it allows us to use our components to provide a seamless user experience for whoever is in that role, whatever that persona is. And we really try to model it after that. So when you think of someone who's doing quoting, you think of a salesperson. What does a salesperson care about? They care about accessing the price book. They care about sales metrics, reporting data around their sales and their opportunities. And so it really allows us to push something out of the box that users can get out a value from day one. So I'm just going to be able to show you one of the apps here today. This is the FX Quoting app, as you'll see here. Or within the context of a quote that I've already set up. I want to show you how these components can be built separately, but provide a seamless user experience by the way they communicate with one another. So the first thing that Travis mentioned was the FX item picker, which is what you see here. So rather than needing to understand and know what you need to search for, the item picker shows you everything that's in the relevant price book, which in this case, we're in the Cirrus Wireline pricing for 2020. So for example, if I just wanted to filter down to see, let me just see all the service charges. I can click and it automatically filters and it places a filter here at the top, and then I can filter based on other things. So what I'm doing is I'm narrowing the scope as I go to find my items. Or I can come in and do a type ahead search. So let's just say I want to search for, I'm going to add a wireline engineer. See my wireline engineer here. I'll select it and hit add. So the item picker component is writing that record, and then it automatically shows up in the data grid component. Two components built separately by the development team that work seamlessly with one another. And so you'll see that the data grid really allows more advanced in-grid editing, similar to maybe what you would expect out of Excel. So you can come in and you can change quantities directly in line. This can be used as a replacement for a Salesforce related list as well. That was by design because it can be somewhat cumbersome to build out a quote, and there's a lot of clicks involved with using the declarative screens. And so we wanted to provide something that allowed an admin or a user to go in and change things all at once. And so these are two of the main components. A couple other tools that I want to show you, which are really utilities around these two components, are here. So first we have a workflow component. This allows you to, through push button or through a drop down, you can easily change the status. Keep in mind your workflow is your workflow, and you configure that as part of your implementation. But this gives, in this case, the salesperson an easy way to transition from one step to the next. We also have the bundle maker. One of the things that we've found within our customer base, within the industries that we serve, is being able to offer packages to people, to customers. So taking multiple items and bundling those up to a single charge that is then shown and provided to the customer. Stage pricing, something very specific to oilfield services. This is being able to say, I have eight line items here, 7 line items. I only want to charge the customer $10,000. The customer doesn't care about all the line item level details. They care about being charged $10,000. So I can type that in, and the system back calculates the discount. Lastly, some other utility components, being able to bulk edit and offer discounting, for example. If I wanted to select everything and say, I'm just going to offer a 25% discount, I could do that through the bulk editor. And then lastly, copying items. If you have the same item that's going to be charged multiple times or needs to be quoted multiple times, select the item in the grid and use the copy items component to duplicate that.
And Matt, how about, you're showing this in the context of the FX quoting app. How about using these same exact components other places?
Good point. Yeah, so by design, we wanted to make sure that we could build these components separately and maintain a single code base that could then be deployed across the different apps. So some examples would be the price book builder page. We want to be able to look through a list of items, like catalog items, and add to price book items, which the price book items would show up in the grid. Or ticket builder, ticket item builder. We want to be able to pick through our price book or our quote. We want to be able to add to our ticket items, and the ticket items show up in the grid. So these same components can be leveraged within different contexts.
Well, that's really great. And of course, it goes without saying that we honor all the configuration and setup and metadata in Salesforce, so things like page layouts and all that stuff still gets honored.
Exactly.
That's great. Yep. Fantastic. Well, thanks a bunch, Matt.
Thank you.
They look really good. Well, we've also completely overhauled and significantly enhanced our asset management module. It has the ability to run either as part of an overall quote-to-cash process, seamlessly woven into the fabric of the overall process, working in conjunction with the other FieldFX modules, or it can be deployed standalone, independent of the other modules. It really just depends on the needs of the customers. We have a tremendous amount of functionality in this module, including features like warehouse inventory, management of assets, asset transfers, just a tremendous amount of features and functionality. We've also made huge improvements to the work order creation engine, as well as enabling much of the functionality in FieldFX Mobile so that you can take it offline. Matt, can you hit some of the showcase features for us in asset management?
Absolutely.
Walk us through another demo?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Travis. Yeah, so I'm really excited about the new EAM functionality. We surveyed our customer base, and what we found is that we were hitting some of the features, but there were some other things that customers were asking for, and we're happy to present and to bake all this in out of the box with our new module. So what I'm going to show you here is one of the apps that's related to EAM. We have a few others that are going to be coming out as well that are, again, like we talked about on the quoting side, very targeted towards the personas. You have your asset manager, your maintenance manager, your mechanic, inventory manager that runs the warehouse, and so on. And we want to provide that custom experience to those people. And what we're looking at here is a maintenance manager dashboard. I'm not going to have time to go through a ton of detail here, but it's meant to provide some insights to the maintenance manager so that he can easily come here and at a glance see what's going on with his assets and with his mechanics and the work orders and so on. So these can all be configured, but we provide these out of the box. Next thing the maintenance manager would do is drill in. So I see that I have 2 new work orders that should be completed this week. So I'm going to drill down on that report, and I see that I have 2 work orders, and one of these is for quarterly maintenance for an F350 pickup. So rather than going directly into the work order, I'm going to go into the piece of equipment to show you some of the detail there. One of the big benefits about using our asset management module with our e-ticketing module and with some of the other modules as well is that it really tells the story of the asset. You can see what your revenue is that's coming in from your tickets. You can also see your maintenance cost that's coming in from your work orders, and you can see your profitability by asset. That's one of the big benefits. And so you get that when you use both of these modules in conjunction with one another. You'll see that a lot of this other detail is provided out of the box, and it's all reportable and can be put on a dashboard as well, including pictures of the asset, including parent-child assets. So if you have a trailer that's carrying a pump or some other piece of equipment, you're able to attach those two to one another. It's another intricacy. So as we look at this, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go directly into our work order. So I'll click on EAM. You'll see that I have quarterly maintenance due on this truck. So I'll drill in. This is preventative maintenance. There's also corrective maintenance and event-based maintenance. The preventative maintenance works in a couple ways. It can be calendar-based or meter-based. So in this case, we're looking at calendar-based preventative maintenance that's to be performed quarterly for this type of asset. An example of meter-based maintenance would be every 10,000 miles we need to get our oil changed, for example. We also have event-based maintenance. And so this really aligns and tells a great story around jobs, because one of the real requirements that our customers have is when an asset is returned from the field, we have a post-job inspection. Well, that's event-based maintenance. That status is changing on that piece of equipment. We're going to kick off a work order, and it's going to be handed off to a mechanic. So you get this nice synergy between the groups. As I'm looking here at my work order, I can do several different things. I can request stock from the warehouse. It'll allow me to use the same components that we talked about earlier. I can use the item picker, for example, to look through the warehouse and request spare parts and consumables that I'm going to use to perform this maintenance. I can also do adjustments on my inventory. So if I have any sort of gain or shrink adjustments that I need to make, I can do that here as well. I can plan out resources. As a maintenance manager, you maybe want to assign this to a specific mechanic. And then lastly, we're going to complete the work order.
There's a lot there for the maintenance manager for sure, Matt. How about the mechanic? What's new for the mechanic in the EAM module?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Yeah, so from the mechanic's perspective, what they're typically doing within the system is tracking their hours and tracking the spare parts that they consumed. All that is feeding the total cost of ownership for your assets. And when used in conjunction with e-ticketing, you get your profitability because you have your revenue numbers as well. So from a mechanic standpoint, I'm typically going to come in here. I'm going to complete a series of work tasks. So I'm going to put my hours in, for example. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I worked 10 hours. We planned 10. I actually worked 10. You see my costing detail below. And then I'm going to actually consume some stock as part of this maintenance plan. So I'll hit plan stock, and I'll say we had 6 planned filters. I'm going to go ahead and just consume all 6 of those. 6. So we issued 6 to the work order, and that has some implications for inventory. It commits inventory, it deducts it so that no one else can use it. It sends a heads up to the inventory manager that maybe we need a purchase order to get more. But that's typically the perspective. Also, to be noted is that all this is available offline in FieldFX Mobile from the mechanic standpoint, so they can complete work tasks and capture the stock details for their work orders for which they've been assigned.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that demo. New functionality looks great in asset management. So I'm going to shift gears from these end user personas, the end user personas being things like the mechanic, the maintenance manager, the field engineer, and we're going to talk about the back office system administrator. So a totally different persona. So for more than a year, we've been working to create an administration interface exclusively geared toward meeting the needs of our customers' FieldFX system admins. The admins are responsible for running the system and oftentimes heavily involved in the implementation when FieldFX is being configured according to the customer's needs. The goal of the admin portal is to make that configuration easier and faster. It's a similar message to the new Timecard native app. We're targeting quicker rollouts to drive faster time to value. There are a number of things in FieldFX that rely on basic Salesforce setup, and those types of things remain in regular Salesforce setup. A great example would be adding a new field or changing a page layout. With just a few clicks, any Salesforce admin can leverage their existing skills and make those adjustments. It's really trivial. There are also a number of very robust features in FieldFX that extend far beyond what Salesforce can do. And while we still model and house the configuration in the Salesforce metadata, we've created an easier way for our admins to create those configurations. A good example of this would be the FieldFX workflow engine that works in concert across connected back office as well as our offline mobile app. Now creating and modifying workflows for quotes, jobs, and tickets, and really any object can be done through an intuitive drag and drop user interface. It's really nice and even gives you the ability to move things from sandbox to production and vice versa. Matt, can you take us through some of the new apps in the admin portal and give us a quick demo?
Yeah, absolutely, Travis. Thanks. Yeah, so I'm really excited about the admin portal, the entire initiative, and it sort of aligns with what Travis touched on with having the out-of-the-box apps and bringing speed to value to the customer faster, right? We want you guys to be self-sufficient and implement the product faster. And so the admin portal, this is the home screen. You log in using your Salesforce credentials, and everything that's listed here is meant to administer some piece of FieldFX. Usually this is because we have functionality that we built specifically that is beyond what Salesforce was providing. Things that we needed maybe in an offline mode, for example, or to create some set of features that we needed to build. Well, it's not just a matter of going into Salesforce and administering all that. We wanted to provide an interface to manage those intricacies. And so here the home page, I'm not going to be able to go through all of these, but this is GA, it's live. So feel free to get in there and play around with it. We've had some webinars. What I'm going to do is walk you through the workflow. So traditionally in Salesforce, workflow is managed through going to two objects, our FieldFX workflow. You go to status and status workflow, and you manage that through declarative Salesforce screens. You create new records, and then you tie the two together. Where it becomes difficult is to kind of visualize what the workflow looks like. And so we determined that we needed an admin tool in order to help our administrators manage that process. And that's what you're looking at here. So we can create new statuses here. We can create new status transitions. We can use this for all objects within the system. I'm looking at a quote here, and this is a workflow that I have set up in one of my demo environments, but it can be used for other objects. And one thing that is really nice to be able to point out is that you can see this stuff, and then you can see that you may have statuses that aren't tied to other statuses. Maybe it's highlighting a problem that you have as part of your workflow configuration. And you'll see an example of that here with will call. If I click on the statuses, you'll see that it brings up more detail. So in this case, we're looking at the bid in progress to the internal approval status transition. And you can see that it allows you to configure things like, where is this app read only? Where is this workflow read only? Maybe in mobile, this is a read only status, but not in back office. Or maybe this is the initial status, or we want to prevent certain things from happening, right? We want to prevent in that status from showing it to the customer or generating a report or syncing to mobile. So these are all the other metadata elements that we're tracking for workflow. And so what we're going to do here for this demo is I'm going to say we're going to add a new transition from bid in progress to will call. So I'll hit plus here. We're going to create a link to an existing status. We're not creating a new status. We already have one that exists. Select will call here. You can hit preview if you want to before saving, or you can hit create. And when it creates, you'll see that it automatically puts the will call status transition directly under bid in progress. So as a person who's filling out a quote, a salesperson, they'll now see a new button that says send it to will call. And that's really all I wanted to show.
That's great, Matt. Looks good. Looks really good. Real easy to use and drag and drop, like the interface. I know that's going to speed up rollouts and changes that our admins want to make speed to value much faster. Well, it's no secret that there's a high degree of turnover in the oil and gas industry. Regardless of the macroeconomic cycle, field personnel change jobs, and the demand for talented back office personnel creates job turnover as well, regardless of the cycle that we're in. This can present challenges when it comes to ramping up users and administrators on how to use and operate systems like FieldFX. We're seeing a higher than normal level of turnover right now, and as demand ramps up over the next few quarters, we'll see turnover decrease and hiring go up across the industry. That brings with it the pressure of fast-paced hiring and the need to get those people productive and trained on the business processes in place. For our customers that have transformed their business to a digital quote-to-cash process, this is an easier task compared to companies that still run antiquated legacy systems. We're making the process even easier for our customers, and we're reducing the amount of work they need to do to get people up to speed on the entire process in FieldFX. This helps our customers and those that want to move away from their legacy systems. Last year, we announced the start of our learning management system called IgniteFX, and I'm happy to report that we've invested significant resources in building out the initial learning path with the first suite of courses. We've been running it internally for several months now, and the feedback has been great. The next step is to activate it for our partners and customers. IgniteFX has courses that cover everything from the oil and gas industry, as well as FieldFX modules, from configuration to usage to setup. Right now, the courses are focused on the fundamentals, but the roadmap has more courses planned that go much, much deeper and wider. The overall goal is to give people a tool that allows them to learn about how to use and implement FieldFX. They can learn at their own pace on any device. And just like FieldFX Mobile, all the courses can be downloaded to the user's device and taken without a network connection, completely offline. Imagine where we can go with this. We're working to introduce the ability for our customers to configure their own customer-specific e-learning content. This could be content that's specific and unique to their FieldFX implementation. It could also be content related to a much larger business process at the customer, where FieldFX is an integral part of the process, but not the only ingredient in the mix. Normally, I see customers train people with a PowerPoint that consists of primarily screenshots. If they have the time and the personnel, they'll have a trainer that can walk the end user through the deck. In many cases, the student is left to self-teach using that PowerPoint deck alone. I think we can offer something that'll end up being much, much more effective and a better experience for the student. With customer-specific content in IgniteFX, we have the ability to create a specialized e-learning module for that customer and allow their users to consume the content on their own time across multiple mobile devices through IgniteFX. With the right single sign-on in place, the right configuration, and a little help from the IT department, we can provide an easy way for the students to securely access IgniteFX that doesn't require another password. IgniteFX is a great example of the uniqueness that you'll find at LiquidFrameworks. It represents an investment beyond the software and makes LiquidFrameworks the only quote-to-cash software provider in the energy industry that has a learning management system available to our customers with full-time dedicated people focused on building high production quality e-learning content for the purpose of faster and more effective onboarding of users and administrators. We've obviously been very busy over the last year, but let's shift gears and take a look at what's in store for the FieldFX product suite. We certainly haven't been short on input, that's for sure. Lots of ideas out there. We have so many great conduits to provide those ideas for our roadmap. The implementation team and product success group have worked closely with our customers to uncover new ideas and features. Our product management team has been very busy over the last year, meeting with customers, doing site visits, Zoom calls, and field engineer ride-alongs. For those customers that participate in these data gathering programs, we very much appreciate it. These efforts serve as the cornerstone for building new work that gets added into the product. It really does allow us to practice continuous improvement. With more users and customers than ever before, we've identified a number of areas to focus our development efforts. We'll of course be delivering new features across all areas of the product suite, but there are a few specifics I'd like to highlight with you today. First, the field engineer at the well site or the refinery location or any work location is the tip of the spear in getting the work done. They run the job and they experience things firsthand on location. We want to put more power into the hands of the occasionally connected field engineer, but do it in a way that doesn't overcomplicate things. We want to take the manual workflows that involve the field technician and back office personnel and move them to an easy-to-use guided digital workflow. We're introducing the FX Data Guide module to deliver this functionality. FX Data Guide is a multifaceted solution that spends the shortest amount of time in the planning and configuration stage moves quickly to the user engagement stage, and ultimately results in data that is compiled into information used for actionable results. In the planning stage, it takes a very complex workflow and simplifies it down to a wizard-like step-by-step experience for the field user. And the amazing thing about it is that there's no programming required, there's no scripting, and there's no Salesforce administration required either. But it resides in Salesforce without compromising your Salesforce limits. It'll allow you to create thousands of mobile workflows if you have that big of a need. And once created, your technicians participate in workflows through a curation process. Out of the numerous workflows that might be available, the technician really only cares about the ones that are specific to the work that they're doing. FX Data Guide, therefore, only invites the technician to participate in the few that match the unique characteristics of the work being done. It could be a couple of workflows for one job, but another job, it might be only one workflow. The important thing is that the field technician doesn't need to figure out which ones apply. FX Data Guide curates the right one. The field tech is then guided through their data collection process in a wizard-like fashion. Of course, a simple process may only require one or two screens, which is of course no problem. But a more complex process may have multiple screens of data with branching logic and conditional display logic, all of which drives the right set of questions and information to the field tech. And as with everything in the FieldFX product suite at LiquidFrameworks, it can of course operate offline. From start to finish, the process can be curated, initiated, and completed without ever having to connect to the network beyond the first login. The technician will be able to run the workflow app offline and mobile, the newly released native Timecard app, and the soon-to-be delivered mobile wrapper app. Back office will also see a new set of Lightning components geared towards viewing this data and even allowing for back office completion of the process. It'll run on a phone, a tablet, iPad, laptop, desktop. In other words, we're going to make it available everywhere, both online and offline. Millions of instances of these workflows can be completed, and the associated data is stored in Salesforce. With our storage architecture that we've designed for this module, you don't need to worry about the traditional storage limits that you bump up against in Salesforce. This is going to allow for long-term storage and archival of this data to ensure compliance. This will especially benefit those customers that capture regulatory information, often required by DOT, the EPA, and other government agencies. With the data stored in big objects in Salesforce, you'll be able to create incredible reports using Salesforce Einstein Analytics. The information gathered from this module should be exceptionally valuable. Extracting trends, KPIs, and key metrics across multiple dimensions using this data is going to provide important insight into operational performance in order to make better decisions. The module has been specifically architected to operate at scale for the enterprise customer that has anywhere from dozens to hundreds to even thousands of workflows, many with a high degree of complexity. The great thing about it is that while the workflow may be complex, FX Data Guide makes the setup and user engagement simple. I expect this new module to be a huge success and look forward to doing a special webinar exclusively focused on demonstrating the pre-release version of this in early October. Now, let's move on to another great module that we'll be releasing soon. Having worked over the years with providers that have trucking service lines in their business, we have a unique perspective on the unique requirements found in the oil field specific to trucking. We're very close to finishing the product management phase of this roadmap item, and we'll soon be moving into the development phase to deliver this new module in early 2021. Once complete, the dispatchers will have a new scheduling interface capable of ticket level or load level scheduling. The dispatchers will have visibility into the location of the driver through either GPS tracking provided by the trucking app itself, or optionally by leveraging the data obtained from pre-existing investments in GPS hardware attached to the truck. The driver piece of this module is a dedicated native phone-based app that runs on an Android or iPhone. The navigation and routing feature set will include full 2D and 3D navigation with truck and hazmat restricted route avoidance. The driver's app will track their location and provide real-time GPS location mapping to dispatch. With automated geofencing, the app will know when a driver enters and leaves a pickup location, such as a well site or disposal facility. This will ease the data entry burden on the driver and make for increased accuracy. With real-time wait times from disposal facilities, we'll be able to automatically determine the closest disposal site with the shortest wait time based on the pickup location. This is going to result in the most efficient run and allow for maximum utilization of drivers and their equipment. Ultimately, the trucking module will leverage the data collected in dashboards that provide the overall cost and profitability for each project, well site, and/or driver. There are many other modules and features that the R&D team at LiquidFrameworks is working on in the coming year. We expect it'll help you get even more value from your FieldFX investment. We'll of course be adding more features to e-ticketing and to S&D. Our mobile app is being moved into a native wrapper app for iOS and Android. I expect that we'll be releasing that later in the year. Great progress is being made on rental, and the admin portal is always getting more upgrades and useful new feature sets and apps added to it that make it easier and faster for our administrators to configure and set up FieldFX. As always, we welcome your feedback and ideas to make FieldFX better. Thank you so much for joining us virtually this ConnectFX in 2020, and I look forward to meeting you in person next year at ConnectFX 2021. A special thanks to Emily, Rabia, and the entire marketing team for making this event happen. Have a great day, and thanks for joining.